Sure.
Hello.
Mm,
So we're back to, well, I'm not back
We're back to the digital space to be separate
to the digital space. Yes, that's true.
in separate. Yes.
Yeah, I was there like a week ago.
Yeah, this was the room that you were staying. True.
It looks familiar.
I will open also this. Um, the hybrid document. Like
Right.
some days ago. I don't know when exactly. I start. Yeah, I was there some time ago. Not
Okay.
not too long ago. Barb. It's called best practices, and this is called hybrid. This one.
Yeah, my hay fever has been really bad. Like,
Yeah.
I think from the day I was leaving PAF, it
Uh,
got it became really bad.
yeah.
And on the train was like, well, it was not horrible, but it was
Almost
not
horrible.
really almost horrible, let's say. And yeah, I've been taking medicine, but like if you take this, like kind of like how to say, it feels like it slows you down a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like yeah, for
So
me, yeah, for me, like really, yeah, yeah. I remember. Like for me,
yeah,
but it's like in everybody's different because for me, there's only this Allegra tab works. Other things
yeah,
like and everybody works differently. On my body, I know it works that brand. I need to buy that.
yeah. I used to have that in Japan. I don't know why. I should try that.
I know something I want to say. What was this thing? There was one idea that I want to put there that I'm not gonna speak about right now.
Mm.
But maybe just to introduce that es el arte y la ciencia se encuentran en la poesía. That's like so the art and sciences they meet in the poetry,
Mm.
which is actually yeah I will not go in there, but it comes through this. I'm studying this things from Sura Atomica. So now I'm in the fourth chapter out of 15, and it's very interesting how they build up. Uh, okay. So they start introducing this idea of complexity, and then how, say, in a way, poetry has emerging properties that art fall off to uh, yeah, some degree, and also science fall off to some degree. Um, yeah, I will come back to that, but
Okay.
it's a very powerful sentence that they summarize like
Mm.
it's the art and the sciences they meet at the poet of the poetry. I mean, it's actually at the poiesis, which is
Oh
a
yeah.
yeah, it's actually there. Um, so it's a very powerful um, abstraction. And I think on this we were speaking that I was underlying this idea of like abstracting things when we were there at PAF. Some I was trying to share this idea of abstracting. How what was I saying? That I don't do that, Bobby, please. Chill. Um, in different ways, in different with different words, I guess I was trying to share this idea that is in my head often now. It's getting more clear the relevance of using, I would say, analogies or abstraction. Also, you can think of them in order to um, try to put things together that are complicated by definition. So trying to explain everything is very complicated.
Mm.
Um, no. Oof. Okay, Bowie is willing to play right now. Look at that. Okay. No, please. What are you doing? She's a bit sick, so I think
Oh,
she wants attention. She has her
mm.
bladder. She's being peeing a little bit of blood. I mean,
Oh no.
pee with blood. So I think she wants some. Yeah, she needs some comfort. But Bobby,
Mm.
easy. Can I do that, please? Or I have to push. Ah, it's also because I'm using this way, and so she's a bit nervous. Yeah. Yeah, of course she's looking at this. You see this? Is my personal smoke machine. Um, so yeah, I think it makes Bowie a bit restless. So she get used to what the fuck is that? Wait, I put it out for now. Um,
So talking about abstraction.
well, yeah, I mean, I think you have a good example to say this. Like, I mean, this is not my example. It's Thomas' example actually. What was it? It was used for to use what? Ah, yeah, it was used. It wasn't an abstraction or an analogy, if you want. I mean, directly, what it is an analogy. What you would categorize within what is an analogy. But it
Okay.
serves to demonstrate what I see as an abstraction of an idea. So the point was made within the we were talking about institutions and how toxic they could be and so on. Thomas is somebody who is a postdoc or postdoc of postdoc. I don't know, like has like really in academia this thing. So he really, but at the heart, he's a musician. He's a street musician, which is yeah, is not only musician, but he really goes into something that is very particular in Chile called peña, which I don't understand
Okay.
completely. But the main idea of the peñas, which is like an is a gathering that happens from time to time, as it happened in medieval times with juglares. Juglares. What is the name of juglares? These musicians that were itinerant between cities in the medieval times.
Okay.
Jugglers. I think that's called it. I think that's the name jugglers. Let me try to find it here. Juglares. 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 Spanish. Ah, no, minstrels. Wow, I never heard of that word before. Juglar. Have you heard of that word before? Minstrels?
No.
Wow, juglares. Anyway, it's this musician. There are these figures of musicians, like in medieval times. Then you have these musicians who go from town to town, and they bring all these things, and then there's kind of like some kind of situation happens in the town, and then whatever, and then they go to next town and so on. So it's very much the same idea, somehow. Peña, within uh, South American context and Chile, I guess. I wouldn't dare to say more than that because I don't really get what it is. But it is really is some kind of like a post colonial expression of a Spanish uh, thing. The music also is very
Mm.
Spanish. Although if somebody from Chile will hear this, it will be really angry. But it sounds very Spanish to me. Um, but anyway, so it was within that context of being an institution, understanding that so the Thomas, somebody who is really at the core a street musician, but also a serious researcher and mathematics and computer sciences. So then he was using an analogy. He was saying that if you lost your keys in a big room and there is just only one spot of light, like the first place that you will look and I mean, and you have to go and take the train because you have just 5 minutes to go. Like the first place that you will look in an empty room is the spot where the light it is, because you
Mm.
understand, right? It's just logic. You just go and search where the light is. Um, and so you will start from there because you have more chances to find the keys. Uh,
Right.
so, and that was like an analogy to say like institutions. I mean, institutions can be a spotlight on places where you have. So you can start from an institution, but it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. But it's just a spotlight. It just he was, I think, using the analogy to say like it's a tool basically.
Mm.
You have more chances. I remember exactly what was the context. And Elena, she lives in a neighborhood where it's full of prostitutes in Brussels. So and she's in because she has this heart. She wants to help them somehow. She wants
Mm.
to engage with them with art and stuff, and she's not having any answers from them. And sometimes actually they get angry at her, right? So then we enter into discussions, and then Thomas was saying like perhaps you should go through the institution around that place.
Mm. Okay.
And the whole point was an analogy. So the whole what I'm trying to mention here is not to say it's good or bad. It's just an analogy that really served for us to like say, okay, yeah, in a way it served. It's not that an absolute answer, but it just facilitate things.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that if you're trying to find your keys, you cannot just go start from the places they are not light, but the chances
Right.
like it will take you more time until you find your keys.
Mm.
And that was like, I mean, I'm saying this in regards to an abstraction of an idea. The whole thing was about Annalena trying to collaborate with or help prostitutes or sexual workers. I wouldn't call them prostitutes. um, yeah, it's something that stays in my head like, yeah, it there are things that are more complicated, so there are things that are complex in their nature, and a way how you can go actually in a language that actually in is more understandable and more inclusive is like through finding analogies of complex ideas. um,
Mm. Okay. Right.
let me think.
That's something. Where should I start? No, but like I think it really depends on the yeah what you want to describe. Like something from classical physics, I think that's enough. And then I don't know, it's just like one specific thing like hit me is like people try to understand, for example, quantum mechanics or, for example, like the chaos theory that we studied, learned last year. Like that's something. It's like sometimes it's very hard to understand with analogy, or like it's actually the analogies can be misleading, and that's the whole point because you have to understand like a whole different system in a way, and that's the interesting part of it. It's not about like try to get the gist of it through analogies, but you have to understand. You have to create a new world in a way in yourself. That's also interesting part of science, which is, you know, there's pros and cons. Like it's interesting because it's like it opens up to like whole new world, whole new dimension in a way. But at the same time, it's just like hard to grasp because we can't just like make an analogy with classical physics or what is around us. I just want to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I will disagree with what you're saying actually, and that's but I think that's more according to the current state of sciences or this idea of like complex sciences. Um,
Mm,
because it's the in a way like this is still is classical is in a classical I know from where it comes your idea, but I think it still is a classical approach through. I mean, is a classical perspective in terms of categorization and understanding of things. So so if the point is, I think there are two different things. Like one is like how much do you need to really understand something, for what you need that knowledge. So if your point is really grasp for real, then chaos theory. So telling an analogy, for sure you will get. I'm not so sure of that. I will still question that. Uh, what I'm trying to make a point here is that I think the current state that we are, this new renaissance that people are speaking, in arts in plural and sciences, uh, there's all about and non-absolute truths, and it's more about like open-ended frameworks, where of course all of them is not about like just start coming up with new ideas from like nonsense, and just like forget all what is being written in history and all I mean, for the place that we are. But it's actually it's just a discourse that is more inclusive. So then again, depends what is that you need from that knowledge. If you need to have like a specific, if you need to have some specific information from chaos theory, you might need to have more information. And but if what you need is some kind of like a vast understanding for something, to go somewhere else, an analogy might be just enough to for you
Yeah,
to grasp something, perhaps.
yeah, but what you said doesn't contradict with what I said. But yeah, because I mean, but I think yeah, I should say this that what is very important is that like not assuming. I think that's the point I wanted to make.
Mm,
Like you can grasp it, the overview, or like through maybe not through understanding chaos theory itself, but maybe like how chaos theory can be used. That can be understood by analogy, but then don't. But then you cannot assume that you are actually understanding the whole theory, and that's like really you know um, something precarious. Because also this complex science idea, like I always go back to like neuroscience, for example, and that's like exactly it's about not assuming. Like people try to understand in the classical neuroscience, for example, there are cells that recognize faces, but it's there's something questionable because yeah, we can't make that kind of simple like um, yeah, we can't simplify that way. Like everyone has different brains, and that's like where it comes to like the complex science that you know we can't just like generalize something, and we have to in a way study individual brains to understand that. So that, but that's like what I wanted to say is like that's about also about like not assuming. We can't assume that everyone has the same brain. Like this cell is responsible for this, but everyone has different experiences, and that's like yeah, that's about not assuming.
yeah.
And it's also about like science communication. That's like something I heard like I don't know 10 years ago. Actually, there is a institution like a science museum in Japan, and they have this job title called science communicator. So basically their job is not just about like um, how to say like researching, but it's about like communicating how this, for example, like I don't know, like internet works. Actually, there's a nice installation, like physical installation that shows like how like information is communicated through server to browser and stuff. So like the job of science communicator is to yeah to tell about like how internet works, for example, to people who don't have knowledge in computer science or engineering, and that's really like beautiful uh, yeah position. And yeah, it's so nice that they created that kind of like position as something valuable, as something meaningful.
Yeah, I mean something that is like, I think especially when you're trying like when you're trying to let's say, try to go into this avenue of knowledge somehow. When you're trying to create knowledge, I mean shareable knowledge, right? Like so, uh, then the using some words, the way how you use the words are important, yeah. Because
Totally. Yeah.
I mean that because that shorten paths in order to create. I mean, if the whole idea is to start speaking about something new, you need to establishing from where it comes, already those ideas. And
Yeah.
for that already have been people before you who have coining some terms that would be not so useful to start just renaming everything
No.
by yourself, right?
Right.
So it's really important, this idea of history, or like especially like then understanding what is the history of art, what is the history of science, of modern science, or um, in order to start. I mean, once you establish some ground, then you can start in a way like proposing things, like to play with frameworks, or being provocative in certain ways. But before some things are not clear, I think you can stay. I think then you stay close to, um, I guess, close to the work of the artist, in a way, in the sense of the artists classically, the artists will work on their own language. So, um, wait, do I want to go to that avenue? Like, I guess what I'm trying to share is like this idea of the artist genius alone who just makes its work and is in this constant thing, but is alone developing language. The There is not such a thing like in sciences you are trying to do an objective investigation and research over certain topics, and is an objective true for humanity, that it has certain methodologies and certain way how to go through. While in art is basically, I think, consider as an artist like being working with art for almost 20 years. And I share these ideas with you sometimes in relation to my position with seeds, for instance, that an artist, a good artist, needs to develop its own language. So you need to go alone and basically just be a
Mm,
autist, like, and developing your own language. So in that sense, you're not being put a position per se an absolute truth in, yeah, or perhaps you're doing it, but you're not constantly in this testing situation or this methodology. The scientists are the scientific method that you are forced to go into certain procedures and then to test what you're doing to be validate, qualified, or yes or no through the community, and then go back to your to process. The artistic world is like individual, and then you have recognition, not recognition, grants or not, but is different. So that was the
yeah.
point I was trying to make, that in the sense that of the artist.
Right. And what's our practices like? Where does it fall? Like,
I mean, I have two things to say. Like, one thing is like, I think like, and I like that very much. It seems that we come through very much experience. So I mean,
mm,
like just sharing our experiences, which is very artistic in that sense. Sharing what we know and what are our questions, and basically confirming each other, and then until we
right.
start finding a language that was common. And I will argue that we are getting so highly sophisticated in doing this that we can just cook and manage to do some out of it. I was having a conversation yesterday with Nassim on this thing, in the sense that we saw this chance of cooking in puff, and we just make a sharing out of it. I don't know
Mm.
how to categorize that, but it was a practice. It is. I mean, it is the proof of what I'm trying to say. At least in my thinking, that is a showing of sophistication in what we are doing. Uh,
Mm.
that we don't have to talk. Say, even for instance, at some moment there was like you got into this emotional space, but we couldn't talk. So then just a hug, and then just trust, and then you go back, and then we just work, because there was like
Mm.
30 people to feed, right?
Yeah.
So it's because there is so much leverage that we can do these things. Like
Mm.
like I, for instance, when I arrive, I know when I arrive at the kitchen, I knew I was a bit late. So it was I was thinking at the moment when I see to start like or cooking or to start preparing
Mm.
something, and then I decide without thinking too much, I just start doing, and then I trust it was fine. Also, but it's like it goes all in this. I think it just all of these things are related to a complex situation, because it's very complex. um, and then you go just with intuition. That's the word.
Mm.
That's your word, just what your intuition, what I feel in my guts, it's gonna be fine. And although all the possibility, all the problems, I see them, what can go wrong, how much time, like there's so many factors. People feeling comfortable, there's the kitchen, so it's a common space, like and at the end it's just like let's go, and then just you start deploying, and then just doing. Yeah, and at the end, so just things went okay. And although, for instance, and even there was this moment that so that we need to personally some kind of like rounded, and you expressing how you feel, we didn't have the
Mm.
time to really acknowledge that.
Mm.
um, but then somehow we did something, and then we move on with the thing to give
Yeah.
privilege for the collective, right?
Mm.
Because the important thing in that sense, and that's close to emergence, then is like then important is that the we were working for a greater good. It was not about our thing, right? um,
Right. Right.
but the thing where,
So
so yeah,
yeah.
please. Oh, let
No,
me,
no, no. Yeah, maybe you should finish because
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. So
just want to say like
what I
where we're
said,
going.
is that so the thing that we start like from sharing experiences, and then confirming until developing a common language. That I think that's where we start doing, and then start writing. um, then work came to us, right? And then different frameworks, different branches. And now what I think it seems to me is that we are getting efficient in the way how we manage our times. Like I mean, that's what I will speak about sophistication. The just intrinsical sophistication, in the sense of like there is so much things that I wanted to talk with you, I guess, or share in all those days, but I was busy, you were busy, and then
Mm.
we just find these frameworks or in the chat, or then or we perform. So this is signs of like what I'm saying, of like just getting effective and still like moving on what we think that is, I guess, around the practice.
Mm.
But let
Interesting.
so wait, let me,
Yeah.
because I didn't close. So so this is facts, what I call of sophistication, or abstraction. This is what I would call abstractions, so, or gestures on abstractions. Then the place where I am interested, and this personally me as Jorge and my obras and as Jorge, is I'm interested in that cross with art and sciences, and then how I can then start sharing with other people. That's the place where I am right now.
Okay. Right. Oops. Um, yeah, it's hard to say. Like, so you said no, efficient, no, effective. More like, yeah, I would
Efficient,
frame it more like
yeah. I mean, that's
effective.
effective could be, yeah.
Yeah, because efficient sounds like capitalist thing, but
But
I think
both,
in
I mean,
French,
both as like, yeah, maybe effective. I like, okay, it's less. It doesn't have. it sounds less capital, although it is very, yeah.
But
I,
I think if in French it's the same word, isn't it? Efficace. Anyways, but I mean, like it's kind of like interchangeable, in a sense, but like not because we're going like completely different from like capitalistic sense of like efficiency or like scientific way of. Well, I don't know what scientific efficiency actually is.
by
Let's not think
definition,
about it.
by definition, is efficient science. Like by definition,
Hmm?
like science trying to be just the shortest point, the shortest time from point A to B. There is not a science they're trying to take more time. By definition, science.
No, but that's the thing. Like that's the goal of science. But we're like more like interested in like the methodology of science, right? And methodology of science is like highly inefficient in like whatever process. I mean, yeah, like whatever process, because that's about it. If it's efficient, if you can find whatever theory in an efficient way, then we don't need science because we probably discovered everything. But because everything takes time, and you have to try like 100,000 different things, and then sometimes you accidentally find new, I don't know, like substance or whatever because of like by accident, and that's like methodology in science is like so inefficient, well, but effective. Like that's the thing, like it's they're trying to try possible things and then find something new. And in a sense that what we do is like similar to like scientific methodology. Like we know that we take time for certain things, but we know that it will lead to something.
This is interesting. That's very interesting. And you're saying then, if I understand you correct, that science is I mean, as like that's an entry for something that you're saying is that science is inefficient but effective, which I subscribe to that idea. Like
Like in general,
it can
like
be, yeah,
not always, but
science
yeah.
can be inefficient, but it is effective. And then how you relate this with the practice?
Because I well, mostly like I think these days about care and like practice about care. And that's like highly like, well, yeah, effective way of like communicating or like making things right.
But
If we cook,
yeah,
we need care about like each other and for the people, for the space, and that's what we prioritize. It's not about like, yeah, like it's yeah, that's it. Like we like how we communicated was through care in a sense. It's not about talking about mm, how to say. I don't know how to say, but that's something I feel like the practice is about care, about the space, about each other, about other people, and that's ultimate like effective way of as a methodology.
I think I didn't. I mean, I got your. I got like almost in a way like the input and like the output. I mean, I got like that you're saying like about the practice about care. Although I don't. I just don't like lately that word because it's being co-opted lately too much for capitalism. So I start getting really cautious with that word. Like you start seeing with in startups and all these tech companies, they're like young, like people who are like I don't know, like really young, they are with this, they are, I mean, it's people who they have this, um, they are very healthy, they are vegan, they do yoga, and at the same time they are hyper capitalistic. They so they are so much things that I don't know what are they, but I'm highly suspicious. I can know more, I can say more than that right now, but that's so, and they speak very much about care. So
I see.
but this is just I mean, don't say that because that's just some distraction. Like I will say this, yeah. So then I got your point. So care, and then so because the practice about care, then is efficient in relation to what you were saying before. That is efficient. Um, that is efficient. No, that is effective.
Mm, yeah.
How effective? How effective in doing what? In doing a.
Of like for the total situation. Maybe it's not the most efficient way to deliver food.
Oh, I think it worked. Like everybody, I hear like the people were amazed with the food. So,
No, no, no. What I'm saying is like not about what we cooked, but like, like maybe there are different ways to like communicate or not to communicate to make that happen within that 3 hours or like 4 hours of cooking. But I think what the path we took was about like recognizing each other and do the practice. And that was like
for the total thing.
maybe not the most efficient way, but it was effective.
Okay,
That
makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as an experience, like we both had like great experience. Yeah, that's
People
what I want to
also,
say.
people also, yeah.
And
Like,
people
I
also, yeah. That, but
mean,
that's
the whole point,
that's a big.
the whole point before starting this project was that the people should be satisfied with food, and that was granted. Like the day when I left, like yeah, so it, like some people were asking me like about the food like and stuff. They were very excited. So people were very satisfied. I was satisfied also with the food. Uh,
Same.
so then it was effective.
Yeah.
Okay, effective. But I like this because then we can start almost thinking like in terms of like this is abstract. These are abstractions that you're doing, by the way. Like trying to create a. That's what I'm trying. My head is trying to go is like into that logic space, like almost like creating an algorithm, basically, so that we define what is care, what is the input, what is the output, and what is in between. That's the place where I am right now. I'm trying to when I think about this, but it's yeah, uh, it comes from there. So I just started thinking in these things lately. Um, they're highly abstract, but I'm thinking like that.
So like trying to understand it better. Like you're trying to, for example, like analyze how we did it, like where it's coming from, what.
I'm trying a way to coin stuff, like to reduce time for it. Like I'm trying to make things to coin terms. I'm trying to
So specifically for the words.
yeah, like
Mm,
to
okay.
analyze this. Yeah. So for
Mm,
like something that I like that you're saying is you said there is. So you said that is that what we did was about care and it was effective for the total. fr- Those are my words, for the total framework. And I like this idea of total framework because in that case was kitchen cooking, but it could be a performance. It could be I don't know anything. Uh,
mm,
Still will be the approach, the methodology will be the same. Was about will be about caring and trying to be effective, uh,
right.
which is very like how can you be effective? Say with me. So how can we be effective to do something that you don't know that you have no experience before? Say like the kitchen, like already we have at least one time we cook, so it cannot fall in that category. You see what I mean?
Right.
Like how can you be effective to something that you have never done before?
Mm,
I mean, in this idea, because I'm trying to almost like to coin and start like writing an algorithm of this. Like if it's true, if it's true, then yeah, I'm don't yeah, I'm trying to make this in an algorithm. So then
wait, we're talking about like so many different things now, no? Like you're
no,
trying
yes,
to coin like those terms, and then what's with this like other situation? For example, we have to, I don't know, do something new. I don't know, like what would be something realistic and something that is like unknown.
no, but I think I
Mm,
know what is the place that is like a bit confusing. I think right now for me also. Say that so we know the and this is coming from the practice. We know that we care, right?
yeah.
And so that's I will say like care is I will say almost like an entry point, and then you see at the other side like a total framework of like the framework. What is the framework? that you're working. So in that case was cooking.
Right.
um, then the way to, so the methodology to use it in a way could be like caring about the space, um, and as a consequence, as a result, then you're being effective because you care about, because you care about that framework. So quotation mark, because you care about the cooking for the people, then you're effective, right? This is on, are we on the same line?
Yeah.
In what I'm trying to say. um, then what it becomes really complicated then to start like understanding is like, okay, so what do you mean by being effective? That's like the really question mark in that.
I see. Right. Because what's tricky about this is this idea of care or whatever that you would say is also a measure for the effectiveness. Because that's a big part of actually like how we say if it's effective or not.
Mhm.
As a person receiving food or whatever, they see that like in this package, it's not just about food, but it's like this care, there's some kind of blob is also added to it, right?
Can you say
I
it again?
mean,
Once again, this is what you're saying.
that they would measure their experience not just about like if the food tastes good or not, but it's about this care, how many stars they would rate for care. That's also part of it in a
Okay.
way. I'm
Yeah,
just exaggerating.
yeah,
So if we say effectiveness, because effectiveness is actually measured also by care. So we're just saying that if we do it great, then it's great. If we care, people receive care. Like, so this doesn't actually make sense. It's not really like um, analytical.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then we have to talk about like, so what is care and what we do, what they receive. Then if we start to like talk about this more, I mean, I feel a little bit saturated. So I think we could, slowly do this process of like what, because this is like all like this really complex thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
About care, also cultural, and that's something we also like we talked about a lot at PAF. Um, yeah, it's very complex, and it's not something that people can just like, okay, I care, and then they can care. It really depends on the context, their experience, and all these things.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Maybe we should move to something else because this is.
But I think the way we do it is like we just like think of like come back to this like once in a while because like it's not something right now we can solve it. But I think we have to. I mean, we are actually working on it. Like this cooking was part of that process.
But this is what I'm telling you. When I'm speaking about abstraction, is because I'm doing this process in different things that I'm doing. Like I'm trying
Right.
to understand because then I can start seeing similitudes between different frameworks. That's the,
I
that's
see.
that's a process that I'm doing currently.
I
Uh,
see.
that one way, in a way, is like what we're doing. In a way, is like being deterministic. When we start basically analyzing, we start like doing a classical approach to how to understand these things, although it's a contradiction. I mean, do you see what I'm trying to my point here?
No, actually, that's also something I wanted to point out because like finding the right term is also about care because we have to be comfortable with that word, and that depends on the context as well.
Okay, but yeah, depends. But I don't know. But then I think this has to be very much about, yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't like. Maybe I would better move on there, not stay there. I don't know. Because for me, like then, I don't know. Do I want to go there? Why not? No.
But I believe that this has to be something plastic, like something changing, negotiating all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
that's what I want to say. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes.
yeah.
Okay, we have some method. I put it in the hybrid dot. Um, so, what? Then, that's what we were talking before. Then, oh, yeah, no, but this is something that we do behind the. Maybe we can just close this chat here, actually. We don't have to keep.
Yeah, I think it's a good time.
It's good. Yes. All
So
right.
don't close the tab. You have to finish
All
the
right.
recording
Yes,
first.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for
So
watching.
thanks for watching.
Next time we
Please
will
like the
give you
video
a better one.
and subscribe to the channel, the Jorge channel.
Stop recording.